All right, here we go. Episode number 2. Welcome all, welcome all. I have a very special guest. One guy that you do not actually need to give an introduction. He has been a force in the industry. Is 20 years? Is it 20 years?
About 26 years.
Closer to 30.
Yeah,
Closer to
yeah.
30. Closer to 30. A very, very dear friend of mine, Mr. Kevin Morrison, has been in the industry for close to 30 years. A very, very lengthy background, which is most relevant to our industry, was actually a deal, working in the space of DOT, has taken that knowledge and now brought it into the space of compliance management, which is one of my babies. And I'm so pleased to have you on to the show. Welcome to UTL Trucking and Education Hub. Um, let's get started. Let's go ahead and just share your wealth of knowledge to people. Let's talk about the unsexy topic in trucking, which is compliance management. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Morrison. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this space, and what keeps you here, because compliance is not a very uh, sexy terminology, and people run like it's the plague when you talk about having to deal with the compliance. And before we get started, again, just to introduce myself and welcome you to the channel, UTL Trucking Education Hub. I am your host, Tamaris Massengill. Kevin, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, Tamaris, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. So yeah, you're right. Nobody likes the safety guy. Nobody likes to do it right guy. So most companies, compliance is a necessity, but a lot of companies struggle to do what's required. And we're living in a day and time now where if you're not running a compliant program, a safe program, it definitely can affect the bottom line, your business's bottom line. So I was with FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, with the DOT for a little over 20 years, about 21 years. Most of that time was with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. It was a couple of years with another agency prior to that. While with the FMCSA, I basically worked as a safety investigator. I did compliance investigations in 8 states. I was a certified roadside inspector. Later got into the management side, and I was the the hazardous materials program manager for the agency's North and South Carolina divisions, and then became the state program manager for the South Carolina division for the last 11 years. And in that position, basically had oversight over South Carolina's state compliance review program, inspection program, the new entry program, and the CDL program. After that time, I got out or left the agency, and I've been consulting for a little more than 8 years, and have worked as a compliance specialist for some companies along the way. So
Wow.
glad to be here. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a necessity. One thing about this channel is I want to make sure we're bringing relevant content and context when it comes to trucking, because so many times we see individuals get into this space and they're totally oblivious to what it takes for you to be successful as an owner operator, and grow your fleet. So let's speak a little bit about some of your experiences as a consultant. What you're seeing is just the norm when you have to go and unravel the mistakes that are made. Just what are some of the very simple steps that individuals either that own a trucking company currently or considering getting into the space of trucking, what are some simple steps that you see consistently, no matter what the fleet is, no matter the size, no matter the equipment, that you are seeing that, like, dude, if you only just paid the $250 for the consultation, rather, I could have saved you thousands of dollars.
Well, Tamaris, in today's industry, unfortunately, a lot of companies don't realize you have to look at compliance from a very high level. Basically, your whole program has to center around compliance, because today you have shippers, your brokers, the DOT, and your insurance company. They're all looking for the same thing. They're basically looking to see that you have an effective safety program, an effective compliance program, and that you have things in place that will make your company less of a risk.
Right.
Make your truck less of a risk of getting into accidents. And if
Right.
you're not doing those things, a lot of companies, they experience the unfortunate circumstances because of that, and that comes down to not being able to obtain freight. Um, uh, your insurance company, they want to raise your rates even higher than what they are, or in some cases they don't want to renew your policy. And then you have the DOT that's going to come in and do a compliance investigation that can result in fines and all kinds of things that's going to further cause additional problems in your business. So compliance, a lot of companies don't realize, getting into the industry, you get in, and the main focus, of course, is I got to get freight, got to get some lanes and that kind of thing. But eventually, if you're not doing the things that are required, as far as the compliance program goes, it's gonna affect your bottom line. I've seen a lot of companies, unfortunately, especially the smaller companies,
Right.
that'll catch up with you and can actually cause you to have to shut the doors.
Right.
Um, most of the things, most people know about drug and alcohol testing. That's not a hard sell as far as a consultant goes, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things, a lot of other serious violations in the eyes of DOT when it comes to your driver files, when it comes to your maintenance program and that kind of thing, that can also cause issues for you. Most companies, they know that you have to set up the driver files when you bring on drivers and things like that. But what gets most companies in trouble is the recurring things that you have to do. When the DOT comes in, yeah, they want to see that you have set these things up, but they're also looking at things that you should be doing on a regular basis. And a
Right.
lot of companies, they're just not taking the time or devoting the resources to doing those things, which results in a bad outcome, doing a safety investigation.
Right. So I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment, okay?
Yep.
I own a box truck. This doesn't apply to me, right?
Unfortunately, that is the opinion of some folks who get in. Some people get in and they want to start, on a smaller scale. I'll start with box trucks, and basically a box truck is still subject to most of the regulations that tractor trailers are subject to. Not only box trucks, but even your hot shots, your pickups, pulling trailers, because it all comes down to your weight of your truck. If it's 10,000 pounds or more, gross vehicle weight rating, or actual weight, which is your gross weight. And then when you throw in the trailer for the smaller trucks, you have to, look at the combination rate. But if any of those numbers, as far as your weight, is over 10,000 pounds,
Right.
at 10,001 pounds, now you're subject to most of the DOT regulations. So the box trucks, the hot shots, they all have to do the same thing that a tractor trailer has to do, except CDL and drug testing. So when your weight gets to 26,000 pounds, more than 26,000 pounds, now you're subject to those additional requirements, which is drug testing, clearinghouse, and the CDL regulations, of course. So
That's right. And I just want to jump in right here and point out how this industry, and I said this in my last interview with Marco, about this, in any industry that doesn't require you to have any degrees, any real credentialing, or any real experience starting off, but yields a very large return on your investment, is always going to have very, very small loopholes that individuals think they can bypass and it not come and bite them in the tail. And what I mean by that is individuals will say, well, I'm in a Sprinter van, right? Or I get a box truck, right? But you just mentioned is if their gross weight is 26,001, then you're in that same category as a semi truck. So it literally is that small, 26,001, and you pull over by DOT and you purchased a box truck that was quote unquote non-CDL, but you don't know that that one really can place you in a category that now you are held to the standard of a regular semi, right? So in your personal opinion, how important is it before investing into purchasing any type of equipment? How important is it to invest in finding a knowledgeable compliance management manager and or compliance management system to invest in? How important would you put that in the ranking of starting a trucking business?
I tell a lot of people, if I were to start a trucking company, Tamaris, knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen, I would start with that part of it. I would start with the safety and the compliance part of it. I'll find out everything that I need to do. And like you said, either if you don't have time or the desire to learn it on your own, you definitely want to find someone who can give you that guidance when you're first starting out. I think that's the most important thing, because if you're not doing that, you can get everything else going. But like I said, at some point, it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah.
And it can cause you to have to shut the doors after you've put all of your time and in some cases all of your finances into getting this company started. I mean, you and I have known each other for a few years, and I've told you, I've seen grown men crying because they've lost everything that they put into their trucking company because that compliance side of it caught up with them. So it's very important. I think that's the most important part of it.
Yeah. So let's for those that may not know, what exactly is being compliant? There's different definitions depending on the size equipment, but the basic foundation of compliance consists of what?
Well, I mean, the federal motor carrier safety regulations cover, you know, I mean, you know this, it covers several areas. You know, it's not just drug testing, you know, it's driver files. There's certain things you have to do when you onboard the driver, and certain things you have to do every 12 months. When it comes to your maintenance, you have to keep certain records, certain documents for all of your trucks and trailers, whether you own them or if it's an owner operator leased onto you, you're responsible for that driver, for that owner operator and his or her equipment. And then it's drug testing, making sure you're in that random program. The clearinghouse came out in 2020. That basically follows drivers that have tested positive or refused a required DOT drug or alcohol test. You can't run from that anymore. You know, in the past, a driver could test positive. You tell them that they have to go and see a substance abuse professional in order to get back on the road. They'll just quit. They'll just go up the street, get a job with another company. That new company never knew that that driver, you know, tested positive or refused a drug or alcohol test with you. Well, the clearinghouse ended all that. Now you can't run from that. You have to make sure if you know, have the unfortunate incident of getting, you know, testing positive or refusing to take a DOT drug or alcohol test, and you lose your qualification to drive, that's going in the clearinghouse. The next company is now required to check that clearinghouse. And when they see that you had that issue, they can't hire you legally until you've taken care of that. So, and then the last thing, of course, is your logs and your ELDs. You know, a lot of misconceptions about logs and ELDs that end up getting drivers and their employers in trouble out on the road.
Yeah, that's the whole reason of having this channel, is because there's so much misinformation out there. My goal is to continue to have seasoned experts such as yourself to speak about what the changes are today. There's a lot of people that operate off of what it used to be and how it used to be ran, and that's because there wasn't any governing entity that was actually sticking to what they put in place. With that being stated, I'm sure you're aware of, but it just happened last week or the week before, the change from the old FMCSA portal into the Modus portal. Do you have any insight or feedback about, what that's doing to individuals, and anyone that's just jumping on in there and that you're seeing this? Make sure that you're hitting that like and you're hitting that subscribe. Make sure that you share. The industry is changing quickly, and it is very important that if you're going to be in this industry and you're going to make this type of money, you have to remain compliant. And that's why we have Mr. Morrison on today. I'm speaking about the Modus system, which is the upgrade from the previous Safer Way and the FMCSA portal. I see what they're trying to do. Unfortunately, their process of making that change has become a nightmare. There are individuals that are driving right now today with the assumption that their system is reflecting that their authority is active right now. But because of this change, this system upgrade, individuals' profiles are either being wiped completely out, their authority is completely not in the system, or the information is outdated that's in their portal, or their information is half complete, half inaccurate. There's been so much talk about what's going on with individuals, their profile, and what has happened is individuals are unaware of this happening to them, and so DOT is pulling them over and they're giving them a fine because in the system it looks like they don't have an active authority. So individuals are really finding themselves in a bind. And additionally, brokers, when they're verifying you before they even give you a load, they're using this same new system and it's showing that your authority is inactive. So I just wanted to bring that awareness into this conversation, and just, have you had any experience? Have you had anyone reaching out to you about that? And, what are some suggestions other than calling on the phone? Because I had one person that said that they were on hold for 6 hours to try to get someone on the phone to rectify this issue, which in this climate where diesel is sky high, who can sit on the phone for 6 hours and just wait for someone to get on the phone to help them with something that they paid someone to do, a while back, but because of this glitch in the system, people are suffering now even more.
Yeah, I mean, the Modus system, as you said, they're just bringing it on as of last week. And the point behind Modus is that the FMCSA wanted to introduce a system that's more secure and has, the functionality is better and that kind of thing. They also want to they're constantly trying to prevent chameleon carriers, and that's the unsafe companies that are reinventing themselves by just getting another DOT number. They've been battling that for decades. So all of this is really about fraud and security. It just came on last week. It is replacing the portal. For people who don't know, the portal was your access to all of your safety data and your ability to update your records and do the things that are required, the biannual updates and things like that, that the DOT requires. The Modus system is replacing that. When you look at systems like the clearinghouse, the data queue system, some of those other databases, they're not changing, but you're just going to need to have your portal account to have access to them, just like you had to have the, I'm sorry, your Modus account to have access to them, just like when you had to have a portal account to get to them before.
Right.
So the FMCSA has been putting information out about it, and let companies know that this was coming. They didn't really give an exact date. You know, and I'm sure whatever their reasons were, they weren't able to give an exact date of when it was coming, but it was introduced last week, and definitely there are some growing pains with it. I mean, it is a large system. They are putting out information. I was able to obtain a PDF today, and I'll if you may have it, Tamaris, but if not, I'll share it with you.
Yes.
And anyone else who needs it. But this PDF that they put out kind of does, you know, shows you step by step how to claim your DOT number in the Modus system. You know, so hopefully to avoid some of the issues that come with the introducing a new system like that.
Yeah. Well, I heard another industry expert speaking about if you have any, like, which you should already have it in your NCAP folder anyway. You should already have your current documentations with you proving that your authority is effective. It's ideal to make sure that you have a updated version with you every 30 to 60 days, even if you have to just print it out again, just so you have the timestamp at the top for situations like this. And if you have had some work done, or if you have a compliance manager that has been working on it, then you can have them maybe send you a statement of verification on their business letterhead showing that, you know, the services were done and you have been active. It's unfortunate that these are the things that we have to do, but when it comes down to being a business person, you have to be flexible, right? So this is a necessary step in order to try to crack down on all the fraud, and having the bad drivers on the road that shouldn't be on the road. But just acting as if this is an inconvenience and they should know better, that's not going to fly. When each state operates at their own will. So even though FMCSA and DOT are the governing entities, however, each state have their own DOT and they all operate differently. So if you want to protect yourself, you want to make sure that you're able to not have your daily operational flow interrupted because DOT randomly selected you on the road and the information you have is outdated, or you assume it should reflect correctly. Don't assume, because there are a lot of changes that are taking place by Mr. Duffy, and they're happening quickly. So can you speak to the importance of making sure that you're having your contact information current and updated, in reference to this update where FMCSA typically only communicates through snail mail. They don't typically email you, or, you know, definitely not text message you. So if you don't have your profile current and updated, then these are the results of not doing so. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. As you said, having that information updated is key to getting information that you need from the agency. And there can be, you know, bad things that happen if they need to contact you to do something and you never received that. So as most people know, you're required to update your information every 2 years, or within 30 days of any changes to your company. A lot of companies don't get to that part of it because in the trucking, as you know, you're so busy doing so many things on a daily basis. So you just have to understand that there's certain things you really can't sleep on, you know, or it's going to cause you issues at some point. You know, I see that all the time. The small things that, you know, companies don't have time to do, you know, just can't get around to it. I get it. But some of those things can cause issues, can cause big issues for your company down the road. So yeah, you definitely want to keep your record updated. Also, the number of drivers, number of, you know, the number of trucks or buses that you have, all that plays into your safety scores. So if you're showing 6 trucks in the SMS system, safety management system, you're showing 6 trucks, but you really at this point have 24 trucks, then anytime you get a roadside inspection with violations or get into an accident or whatever, they're applying that to a fleet of 6 instead of a fleet of 24. So now your safety scores are going to be higher than they should be, and that's going to result in eventually the FMCSA is going to want to come do a compliance investigation. The insurance company is going to want to have a talk with you about the amount of money that you're paying, and your shippers and brokers are they're going to have an issue with the high scores, and that number is artificial because you have not updated your record. I've had that happen with clients. Anybody familiar with those gold triangles over the 7 basics? When you have an alert in a certain area, I've had clients come to me, help me get my safety scores down, and the first thing we want to do is update your record to show how many trucks and drivers you actually have. And I've updated my clients in the past that as soon as I did that update, their scores went down. When I increased the number of trucks they have from 6 to 30, because that's how many they actually have now, that was all it took to bring their safety scores down.
Wait, say that again. Say that again. Say that again. I don't think people heard you.
Yeah, I mean,
so you're saying that my insurance rate can be significantly reduced if my FMCSA profile is reporting correctly, and my score will be lowered if I'm saying that I have the right amount. We'll break. Let me not mess it up. Let's say it again. What you just said.
Yeah. You're definitely you're on the right track.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that when it comes to the CSA safety scores, it's not a 1, 2, 3, not a 1 + 1 = 2 that gives you your safety scores. Okay. If you look at the formula that they use to calculate your safety scores, it looks like a calculus problem. Okay. And it has all kind of things in there, all kind of variables in there, like the size of your fleet being compared to other fleets, and things like that. And one of the things is the number of trucks that you have, or buses and drivers that goes in there. Okay. So if you're not reporting, if you have a lot more trucks on the run, just speaking of trucking company, but it also applies to bus companies. If you have more buses or trucks on the road than what's reflected in their system, they're going to use that smaller number to calculate your safety scores. But again, you got 20, and I'm going to use that 24, let's say 24 trucks out there. Okay. But you show 6 in the system. Those 24 trucks are getting roadside inspections and getting violations. But when it goes into that formula, it's looking at six trucks because that's what's in the system. You haven't updated it. So now all of these violations, however many the 24 or 30 trucks are getting, it's looking like the system, it looks like 6 trucks are getting all these violations. So because that's what that number 6 is what you have in the system. So that's going to make your scores a lot worse than what they are.
So wow, that's mind blowing. Okay. So individuals are probably assuming that it's because it's different units that the violation, but it's not. It's associated with that authority, that DOT and MC number, correct?
Yeah. If it's any truck or buses operating under your operating authority, again, owner operators, a lot of people, I've had clients in the past who felt like owner operators can do what they want to do. And I had to tell them, look, they're the owner operator, they own their own equipment, but they're operating under your authority.
Right.
So their trucks are getting violations, which is going against your safety scores. And now your safety scores are so high that you can't get freight anymore. You can't provide freight to them. So now they're going to leave and go work for somebody else. And you're going to be stuck with those safety scores for at least 2 years, So
So let me ask you this. So let's say my truck gets pulled over to the side, right? My truck is fine, it passes, but the driver had some violations.
Mhm.
Because they're in my truck and my truck is in my authority, those violations on that driver will affect my authority as well?
If that driver gets a 14-hour violation,
Wow.
that's going to go against your company. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And it's stuck on my authority for 2 years?
For two
Even if
years, it's
that
going to
driver is
affect.
not with me anymore.
Oh, that driver could quit the day of the inspection. Right after the inspection, that driver could quit, and you're stuck with those points for the next 2 years.
Shut your mouth,
And see
Kevin.
that.
No way. My mind is like a computer chip, bro. Like, because I'm thinking about like when I was running my trucking company and I had two drivers that were complete like garbage, right? I didn't know any better. You and I have had this conversation about my ventures, right? And I was wondering why I was struggling so hard with getting loads, right? But unbeknownst to me, that my truck was great. When I had my audit, it was perfect, no issues. But these drivers, and again, I was ignorant. I didn't know how to verify them and make sure, I didn't know how to go into the system and verify, their license, which I'm kind of glad Modus is making everything centralized where you don't have to have all these different portals and sites to go to verify information on everyone. But it makes a lot of sense why I didn't know how to check my score, my CSA scores. And I didn't know that was why me having these drivers that were getting these violations on their record, on their license, but then they would quit. But then I was still struggling with getting loads. So this is the stuff that brokers don't tell you why they won't mess with you. You're wondering
Right.
why you can't get no loads. You wonder why you're not getting no callbacks. The moment that they check your score, and a good broker that's been doing this for a while, they're going to check all their bases before they give you a load, unless it's just one of these huge brokers like, I don't want to say none of the names, I get in trouble, but these huge brokers that they can afford to take that loss. But independent brokers, they're going to do their research because they cannot afford to give you that load and something go wrong, right? So this is why they're not calling you back. This is why they're ghosting you. As soon as you give them your MC or your DLT, and they go and check the system and they see those, they don't even bother with returning a call. So, wow, thank you for breaking it down. That was mind blowing. That's why you to go,
Yeah.
man. That's what you've been doing is almost 30 years.
Well, Tamir, that's why I started out by saying that companies have to look at compliance from a bird's eye view, because today your safety scores and your attitude towards safety can really affect your ability to make money. You have to uh, have expectations and accountability for drivers if they're going to drive under your authority. There's
Right.
some drivers that'll say, "Hey, I've had a I had a driver years ago when I was trying to help a client get his driver files and all that set up, and I called one of his drivers and said, I need a copy of your medical card, your CDL." And the driver, he was on the road running, ripping and running. He was like, why is he asking for all this stuff? I don't work for him.
Oh,
And it kind of threw me a sore side. I was like, excuse me. He said, why is he asking me for all this documentation? I don't work for him. I said, yeah, you kind of do. If you're driving under his operating authority, under his MC number, you do work for him. So, and he's required to keep all this stuff. So, but you really, again, if you have drivers operating under your authority, you have to set expectations for them and you know hold them accountable for what they're doing.
now you said something earlier on. I don't think people take this serious enough. The onboarding process for a new owner operator that operates under your authority. So speak a little bit about that and what individuals should be taking into consideration before they hand the keys to their truck to a new driver, other than, verifying their CDL is active and that they have a current medical exam. But the onboarding process, I don't recall that being something again, I'm caution on the side of error saying I didn't do that. I just thought it was as simple as, filling out an application and verifying that that was fine. But so other than the applications, there's additional steps. Can you speak to that?
Okay, so yeah, once you do the application, of course, you have to review that. One of the things you're going to look on the application that you're going to look for is the driver's history, their accident history, who do they drive for, who do they work for. You're required as the employer to reach out to anyone that they work for that was under the DOT's authority. So basically, if they were a commercial driver for anybody else during the past 10 years, you're required to reach out to that person or that company and document that you reached out to them to find out about that driver's history. Of course, you want to, you mentioned, and so these things that I'm talking about right now, these are the things that I said, these are what gets carried. This is what the FMCSA is looking for if they come in and do a compliance investigation. They're looking for that. You want to get, of course, a copy of the CDL, if they have a CDL, because they're driving a truck that requires a CDL, you don't have to maintain a copy of their CDL. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. If they don't have a CDL, if they're driving a truck that does not require a CDL, you have to give them a road test, a company road test. If they do have a CDL, now in lieu of doing that road test, you can just maintain a copy of their CDL in the file. But if they're a CDL driver and you don't have a copy of that CDL, now the FMCSA is going to want to see where you gave them a road test and documented that in their driver file. So the CDL gets you out of having to do that. The medical card, of course, you want to check. Again, this is for owner operators as well. You want to get a copy. There's a lot going on with the medical card. There's some new regulations where medical examiners have to transfer that information to the FMCSA. FMCSA sends it to the DMV to put on the driver's driving record on the MVR. There's been some little kinks in that system as well. We're working through, FMCSA is working through some issues with that. But if you're not sure, then just go ahead and continue to get a copy of the medical card, keep it on file. Drivers, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the employers are required to verify that medical card or verify if someone gives you a medical card, even if it's a non-CDL driver. You have to check the National Registry of Certified Medical Examiners to make sure that they actually went to somebody who was certified by the FMCSA to give them a physical or medical exam. Again, a lot of the technology that's being introduced is doing away with some of that, but a lot of those systems aren't running. They're not up and running, the way that they should be. They're not 100% right now. So you have to do the best you can to make sure that your driver is medically qualified to operate that vehicle. And then that same scenario, you want to look at that driver's history of roadside inspections. If you can subscribe to the PSP system that the FMCSA has. With that system, you can look back, a number of years and see every roadside violation, every violation that driver got on a roadside inspection. So if you're looking at his history on that PSP report, and you see that this driver has a history of log violations, you're about to bring that that problem into your company. If that driver hasn't, learned the error of his or her ways. So you want to check that as well. You want to look at the maintenance of that truck, the condition of the truck. Just like older cars, older trucks require more maintenance. That's one of the biggest problems for companies when it comes to their safety scores is their maintenance because of the age of the truck, or they're just not doing the maintenance that's required on them. That's causing their maintenance score to go up. So I advise a lot of companies, if you get to that point, the companies that I have worked with in the past, if you're at the point where you can lease your fleet, those companies, their safety score is usually a lot better because you have the leasing company, and I'm talking about like I said, I'm not going to name names, but you have the major leasing companies that's actually doing the maintenance on those trucks, and they're swapping them out, when they get a certain amount of miles on them. So, but yeah, those are the things you want to look for when you bring a driver on, that you're going to trust your MC number, you're going to trust your operating authority to that driver. You just want to make sure that they're gonna take care of it.
Wow, that just blew my mind. Seriously. It was nothing but the grace of God that kept my company going for as long as it was going, with all of these missing components that I had no idea, because I jumped in on the hearsay theory, right? I heard there's a lot of money to be made. All you got to do, and I keep stressing the all you got to do quick phrase when it comes to any type of business endeavors or in life, period. When someone introduces a conversation with all you got to do, 9 times out of 10 is a whole lot more that you got to do, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm telling you, God, when I this is not biblical, but God watches over all babies and fools. And last time I checked, I didn't wear a pamper, so have it.
Yeah.
It.
Back, they
Listen.
they were printing money back in 2018. Those small companies
Oh,
were. they, the years ago, everybody was jumping in, and it did look easy, and it looked like the money was just flowing. But a lot of those companies got caught up. They were doing it for a few years, and then again, all of this stuff caught up with them because they weren't doing the things that they were supposed to do. I saw a company come in, they were in and out of business in 9 months. They came in, they hired and it's not funny, but they came in, hired a couple of drivers, gave them a drug test. I think that's all they did. They passed the drug test. They put them out on the road. The 2 drivers immediately went out there and started racking up roadside violations, running the company's safety score up. Next thing you know, the things that always happen. The brokers didn't want to give them any freight. The scores are too high. The insurance company said, "Hey, we're going to have to cancel your policy. Your scores are terrible." And then the DOT came in, the FMCSA came in and did a compliance investigation, wrote some fines that they couldn't afford to pay, gave them a conditional safety rating. So now here's another reason nobody wants to give you any freight. And that company was out of business in 9 months. So again, that's why I say it's this safety today, and it's gotten worse. This was a few years ago. It's even worse now. Safety again. Safety drives a company's success now.
absolutely.
So.
Absolutely, as it should. Honestly, when you think about it, you're putting an individual, especially with the sweep, the rapid sweep of the idea of putting autonomous vehicles on the road. I don't know which is worse. Trucking companies that have high safety score, or nobody in the truck at all, hauling down the highway with 80,000+ pounds on their back, right? And we're hoping it don't get a glitch while it's flying down the road, At least the probability of the truck stopping with a human in it is a bit higher, opposed to a computer,
Yeah.
But safety should be number one when it comes to these vehicles being on the road, because of civilians. They're the innocent bystanders, right? To a certain extent, because you have a lot of people that just don't understand the concept of this is 80,000 pounds, and you are in, a Kia. Like, I can't stop on a dime. It takes me a couple of miles to safely stop, right? But I just want to open up the floor and let you speak about something that's very passionate about you and why you encourage individuals to participate in successful training courses such as yours. Speak a little bit about your course and how individuals can find you and what they can expect by participating in your course, which is amazing. I took it, so unfortunately it was closer to the end when I had all these issues going on with my company, but the knowledge is still there. So speak a little bit to why that's important and what people can expect by attending your course.
Okay. So yeah, when we first met several years ago, you did attend one of my virtual seminars. I used to give 8-hour seminars that went through all of the basics when it comes to compliance and safety that companies should do. Met a lot of people. Some of them are still in contact with me today. I'm not doing a lot of seminars like that anymore. What I'm doing now is just, from the experience that I have and from what I've seen, I've taken a look at what's causing companies to have these problems. So what I did is I found, in my opinion, of course, compliance and safety is very confusing. It's always changing. Companies don't have time to do it. They don't have the resources or whatever, and they're trying to be successful at trucking. So I said, let me look at the things that companies are having issues with. And what I determined is that the core problem is there's not really a system that
Right.
companies have for safety. So
Yes.
what I've worked on for several years and just starting to roll out is what I call the Gold Star compliance system. And what that is basically it's a comprehensive system that companies can put in place that will ensure that they're operating safely and in compliance, and I'm looking at my talking points here,
Okay.
just to make sure that they're complying with everything, because again, it's going to affect their ability to reach their full potential.
Right.
Insurance companies, as I've mentioned, insurance companies, the DOT and shippers and brokers are all looking for the same thing. They're looking for a effective compliance system, one that is going to prevent your trucks from being a liability.
Right.
And they're looking for, I've identified 5 things that they're looking for. They're looking for a compliance program that's structured,
Mhm.
that's consistent,
Mhm.
that's verifiable, that's
Mhm.
documented, and that's defensible. Um, and they're all looking for those things. I've sat through some insurance renewals with underwriters, and they're asking you questions. Are you having safety meetings with your drivers? You know, and companies start talking slow. When they get asked that question. Are you doing this? Do you have a system for making sure that your files are compliant? That kind of stuff. So basically, I put together the Gold Star compliance system. Um, I'm working with a couple of people, and basically, we will look at your system, and we will determine, we will help you fill any gaps in your compliance program, provide tools and things that will help you get into compliance. And then we'll document that you're operating at a high level of compliance with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. And we'll talk to your insurance. I mean, I've talked to a lot of insurance companies over the years. We'll let your insurance company know that, hey, this company is doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, because that's what they want. So the Gold Star compliance system, you can find out more about it at goldstarcompliance.com. As part of that, I'm also doing driversafetymeetings.com, because I've never seen a company have a solid safety program if they're not talking to their drivers on a regular basis, having that two-way conversation, laying out those expectations and accountability for the drivers. In this environment of $5+ per gallon of diesel, a lot of companies aren't bringing their drivers in. They can't afford to bring their drivers into a hotel conference room like they used to, and that kind of thing. So we're developing driversafetymeetings.com, where we will talk to your drivers on a monthly basis virtually. With that membership, we will talk to them. We will provide knowledge, quizzes and things like that to test their knowledge. We will document their attendance, and we will provide documentation for your insurance company to let them know that your drivers are getting that type of required, communication. So those are just the big things that I'm working on right now. I'm not doing too much. Well, I'm not really doing any going out, um, traveling all over the country to on site do on site stuff anymore. But
Good. Because
but yeah,
it got to the point where I literally had to pick up the phone, like, what time zone are you in? Like, where are you now? Like, it was
yeah,
never at home. You were
yeah.
all somewhere else.
It was fun while it lasted, but I'm getting old now, Tamara. So getting too old for that.
Right?
So I'm
Right?
just trying, I'm finding ways to
Yeah.
where I can make a difference,
Right.
without having to do all the physical
Well, I think
travel.
that's
So
more efficient because everybody's life is literally in this little box that we carry in our pocket. So the more user friendly, the more accessible it is. I think that will encourage individuals to want to stay compliant if it isn't something long and daunting and big legal terms that are involved. If you could simplify it to a person understanding, hey, all you have to not all you have to see. I almost got myself. See, it's in the culture. All you got to do.
yeah,
But if you follow these steps, then it literally will make the difference in whether you can be successful with your business and whether you can grow your business. The gems that you dropped were just mind blowing. Like, I don't know what to say. You always blow my mind when we have our conversations anyway. I just absolutely had to bring you on because more people need to hear this, that there is a very, very affordable way. Trucking, let's just be honest, you're not going to come in and you're not going to get any services for free. Let's say that again. You're not going to come into trucking and get any, let me say this, you're not going to get any reliable, consistent, compliant assistance for free unless you take the time and go through FMCSA training and go through their video library and go through their website and educate yourself. But if you're looking for a right now fix and you're looking for a seasoned professional who literally worked with them, then you want to get in contact with Mr. Kevin Morrison. Mr. Kevin Morrison, how can they reach you? How can they find you? I'm already going to put your link in the comment sections of the video, but how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook at CTSA. It's Commercial Transportation Safety Associates, in commas. I'm sorry, in parentheses, CTSA on Facebook. You can reach out to me by email, Kevin at ctsa-safety.com. So just look for CTSA-safety. I think that's pretty much on all of my social media stuff. I'm not really a big social media person, but I try to in this day and age, you have to be in it to a certain extent just to compete. So I do what I need to do with it. So
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely going to link all of your information in the video. What are some last thoughts that you want to share about the industry and what you're doing to contribute to the industry? You and I clicked off the bat because of your passion. It was no more of trying to hold individuals' hands. It was more of, here's the resources. If you want to build, then go over to the pile and pick them up. Right. I'll be over here on the side to guide you, but I'm not going to do it for you. And I think that's what a lot of us need to get back to, is that you can't just go pay someone X amount of dollars and think they're going to build your dream, because it's your dream. God gave it to you. He revealed it to you. Right. And I think more entrepreneurs need to understand, stop buying into the idea of, oh, all I need is some money. No, you have to have the passion. You have to have the desire, because that's what's going to keep you in the game for almost 30 years, is having the passion and the desire. Because this industry, it is not for the faint. It's not for the weak. If you are super sensitive, please stay away from trucking. Don't come over here to trucking because you're going to get your feelings hurt. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You're going to get your feelings hurt because this is a very stressful industry. It is a very fast paced, things are changing and you have to stay in the know. And it is very compliance driven, meaning that you have to be on top of your stuff because DOT is on the hunt and all they care about is making sure that they're keeping the road safety, AKA that they're meeting their quota, but they're keeping the road safety, right? So that was a joke, DOT. I'm just playing, okay? Don't come after me, all right? That was a joke. That was a joke. But seriously, highway safety is very, very, very important. I'm glad that they're making these changes in the industry. A lot of people are fighting back but before there's any significant change in anything, there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some shaking of the glass until the dust hits the bottom, right? Because there's been so many people operating in error for so long that their way is the right way, which a lot of the rules that they're speaking about have already been in existence for decades. They just haven't been enforcing them. So I really hope that anyone that has had the pleasure of running across this channel and specifically this episode with Mr. Morrison has gotten some value from it. Make sure that you click the links in the bio, links at the bottom. Excuse me. This is only my second episode, guys. I'm getting it together. I promise you, I'm getting it together. But before we sign off, I want you, Mr. Morrison, the floor is open to you. Give whatever tidbits of advice that you feel is relevant, and then go from there.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is that, whatever field you are in, like you said, you want to be passionate about it. And I tell companies or individuals who are, branching out, going to get this truck, on this journey to make $5 million in trucking. I tell whatever you're in, just learn as much as you can about whatever your chosen field is. The more you know, the more successful you're going to be. And we talked about, again, the compliance side of it, as you mentioned, Tamaris. A lot of people jump in without, that's a second thought. Compliance is a second thought. Let me just do what I know about. I know about drug tests, and I'll do that or whatever. Just learn everything you can about it, because it really does make a difference on your success, on how successful you can be. So that would be my final thought on that. Tamaris, I just want to say that like you said, we've known each other for a few years now, and I'm watching how you've grown. I'm watching how you've learned. I looked at your first episode of the podcast, and I'm like, man, she's really starting to take off. You're going to a new dimension with this thing. So I'm proud of the things that you're doing.
Thank you.
Just keep doing what you're doing. I know you're passionate about what you're doing as well. So just keep up the good work. And I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, this is not the last time. We're definitely gonna have you back on. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the wealth of knowledge. I appreciate our friendship. And I'm looking to hear big things once we get this program up and going. Definitely y'all want to remember this man's name. You're gonna hear him all over the news real soon. Leading the way. All right, Kevin. Well, it's been a blessing. Again, I appreciate you and thank you. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care.
Take care.